What's up, guys? Today I'm sitting down with Isaac Mays. He has been a Norse athlete since the very beginning, pretty much.
Yeah, since 2018, so a little over 5 years now.
That's crazy. I remember whenever we first met, I flew up to that competition that we were sponsoring in Calgary, and you had just started getting into Strongman, right?
Yeah, that was kind of one of my first big shows there. So it was a pro-am, and that was kind of one of my first ones that season. And before that, it was all amateur. So yeah, that was a big.
And you came in and just kind of cleaned house there, and then we ended up hanging out a little bit, and I was like, all right, well, this makes sense.
Yeah, it was, it went really well. That competition ended up winning that. And then, we got to hang around the Calgary Stampede there for a bit. And
I ate a grilled cheese cricket sandwich. That was my first. I remember that. I remember Allison busting my balls over that because for some reason there was like a mental block there, and it didn't taste bad at all. But in my head, I was like, there's crickets on this grilled cheese. But do you know the story behind that?
Behind the cricket trees?
Yeah, just completely go off subject right now. But yeah, what is up with the crickets in there?
Yeah, I have no idea. I did not try it. So.
Yeah. Allison was telling me it was from back in the cowboy days when they just needed some sort of food and they would just eat crickets or something. But anyways, back on topic. Isaac is a pro strongman. He's been competing since 2016?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
2016. I just kind of made that number up, but
yeah, nailed it. Guess.
Good. But yeah, so he's been competing since then, moved his way up through competitions, and he actually just competed in OSG, which is Official Strongman Games. He flew into Charlotte, flying out of Charlotte, and since he was in town, we figured why not sit down, record a podcast, and just kind of shoot the shit. I want to talk about your working schedule and training because leading into this competition, and this competition is stacked. There's over 400 people, or right around 400 people competing, all top people throughout the world. You're working pretty much nonstop, right?
Yeah. It was a little rough for prep. Just I was working on this new project, drilling these wells, and so it was 33 days straight of 12-hour night shifts, and then doing my training and trying to get some hunting in on top of that and stuff. So it wasn't a lot of sleep, and it wasn't the greatest prep. So that kind of affected my performance. I still finished 10th out of 41 guys, but unfortunately, that's the worst I've placed. So that was a little frustrating, but given all the circumstances and stuff, it's hard to be too disappointed. But
right. Do you have a gym to train at where you're at? Because I know you're stationed somewhere different, right?
Yeah, so I'm basically kind of working in the middle of nowhere, and then the closest town was about half an hour away. So I would wake up and then drive half an hour, train, and then drive back to work and work 12 hours. And that's it's a small town gym, right? So there's a couple squat racks and some dumbbells and stuff like that. But I basically didn't have any strongman implements other than my friend that lives on a farm kind of in that same area. I would go train out of his garage, and he had a couple things like farmers and one Atlas stone and
your
stuff
basics.
Like that. So yeah, I kind of had the bare minimum, but that's about it.
So what kind of training did you do to supplement that? The fact that you didn't have any implements to train on for the event, what were the main lifts that you were focusing on with your training? Yeah,
I kind of just tried to keep everything like full body because that's what strongman is. Like it taxes your whole body. So I was doing a lot of like power cleans and deadlifts, squats, zerchers, stuff like that kind of best, replicate strongman events as best you can.
Yeah. Is that what you'd recommend for anyone just looking to get stronger overall, just focus on those type of lifts?
Yeah, absolutely. Like anyone that's like doing general strength or trying to train for strongman but doesn't necessarily have the best equipment is things like deadlifts, squats, overhead press, zerchers, that kind of stuff that kind of involves the whole body. That way you're working towards those kind of strongman events.
Do you focus on endurance training at all, like cardiovascular or anything? Because I know there's a lot of moving events at OSG.
Yeah, not so much because my conditioning's always been pretty good, and I feel like I get a lot of that from like hiking and hunting and stuff like that as well. And that's kind of the nice thing about strongman is the way I've always looked at it is, the events are maybe at the longest 75 seconds to 90 seconds. So it's kind of, if you can push yourself and suck it up for that little amount of time, then you get lots of recovery time after. So
what do you really kind of think about whenever you are having to suck it up and just push through it? What goes through your head during those moments?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually, because it's like you're always like mentally like preparing for it before the event and visualizing what you have to do in that. But then it's kind of like you just kind of get that tunnel vision when you're in the moment, and it's like it's almost like it doesn't even exist, right? It's like you don't kind of realize it till after the event's done that you're like, holy crap, I am wiped out, right? So
I guess that's kind of the importance of visualization, but then also putting in the reps during training at other competitions and stuff like that is it allows you to just kind of get into that flow state during the competition itself where you're doing it. You don't even remember doing it, really. You might see a video or something later.
Yeah.
But you just kind of enter into this flow state where you're able to execute. You're doing what you do, and your body and mind and subconscious mind and all that stuff just knows, okay, we've already been here before, either if it was through visualization or training, but you've put in so many reps over the years that now it's just probably second nature.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you've done that movement, 100 plus times in training, it just becomes second nature. And then when it comes to contest time, it's like your body is basically knows exactly what to do and kind of takes away with it.
I think that's the main thing that people need to focus on when it comes to training in general, or really trying to acquire any new skill, is it's all just repetition. Because going into it, none of us are good at anything because we've never done it before. But then people have this expectation that, oh, I need to be this good going right into it. It's like, why do you think that you should be good at it at all when you've never done this before? When in reality, like they just need to focus on putting in the reps, training the body and mind. That way it just gets to the point where, okay, I get underneath the bar, I squat, I pick up the bar, deadlifting, whatever. Because that's what I've noticed over the years as well, is everything was very foreign in the beginning. And now there is zero thought when it comes to training. It's just, I know what to do. I know what feels right. And through that repetition, you don't have to think about it anymore. It just becomes second nature. But yeah, I think a lot of people listening to this could benefit from that, especially as they're maybe getting into lifting and stuff like that, is just focus on putting in the reps. Don't necessarily get egotistical about it and be like, oh, I need to be lifting this much because this guy on Instagram did, or Isaac was lifting this much right out of the gate. Because I know like when you started, you were already pretty damn strong.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, where people kind of get stressed out is with social media nowadays and stuff. They see somebody like me lifting X amount of weight or winning this competition or something like that, and they instantly think that they need to be that good, and they don't really see that it took me 6 or 7 years to get to this point, and it's baby steps along the way and constant dedication and discipline, and just like taking it day by day rather than seeing I want to be here and get here as fast as I can.
It's delusional to think that way.
Yeah.
But it's a trap that we all fall into because we want to get to the end goal, or at least what we have envisioned for the end goal, as quickly as possible, when there's a whole process that needs to undergo. And really it's just one step at a time, putting in the reps until eventually you're at a point where it's like, oh shit, you look back on it and you see all the progress you've made, and you might actually stop and appreciate that, unless you're me and you just kind of, yeah, it's still not fucking good enough. But when it comes to building discipline for training, what would you recommend? Like, what has helped you?
Yeah, you kind of just got to take it day by day, and it eventually becomes second nature. Like, you're not always going to want to go to the gym. You're going to be tired. You're going to be, not eating enough, and you're not going to want to go. But it's just you build that discipline of getting out of bed and going, and just once it becomes second nature, and it's just you put one foot in front of the other and take it day by day, and then next thing you know, a couple of years down the road, you can see all that progress that has come from that discipline.
Right. I would say 90% of the time you don't want to go to the gym.
That's right.
Especially, up in Canada when it's super cold and shit. You're like, I got to get out into the snow.
Yeah.
I got to drive through this. It's freezing. The gym's probably cold too. There's all these factors, and you're just thinking about them as you're laying in bed or as you're getting up, starting your day or whatever. And then it's the ability to just kind of listen to your thoughts as you're walking out the door.
Yeah.
That's what I've realized with it. Anytime I've tried to implement a new habit, I can hear the bitching and complaining inside my head as I'm putting on my shoes, and I'm just kind of letting it do its thing. But that's where habits come in, right? It's like when you just force yourself to do something enough times, your mind never necessarily stops doing it.
Yeah, like leading right up to the day before I left for this competition, I did 33 days of 12-hour night shifts. And when you add about 2.5 to 3 hours of training on top of that and everything else you got to do in a day, it's like you're only getting about 5 hours, 6 hours of sleep at most. So, I definitely did not want to only get 5 or 6 hours and go to the gym and then work 12 hours that night after doing all that. But it's just, you got to kind of suck it up and do it day by day, and just and then that's where the discipline comes in. And no matter how much you don't want to do it, you kind of just got to do it.
That's the best way to describe discipline, is doing the shit that you don't want to do.
That's exactly, how you were talking about the ice bath in the morning that you do. I haven't jumped on that train yet, but
it really is. We were talking about it last night, but that's the one thing with the ice baths that no one ever talks about, but it's where I've seen the biggest benefits from it, is eliminating procrastination as a whole. Because I never want to get into that damn thing, especially when my garage is, 25 degrees in the morning or something like that. But it has become a habit in itself. I hear myself bitching as I'm putting my foot into there, and then as I'm like putting my head underneath the water and submerging myself and all that, I'm bitching the entire time, but just forcing myself to do it enough, it has made everything else in life so much easier. Like, there is no procrastination in my life, whereas in before there definitely was, especially if I was running myself to the ground with work or life as a whole. The burnout aspect, the more that you burn yourself out with things, the less motivation you have in general. And the ice baths have just it has made everything else seem easy to do.
Yeah, that was the best way you explained it to me, is like that you considered that kind of the hardest thing you were probably going to do that day. So you get that out of the way first thing in the morning, and then it seems like the rest of your day is maybe not necessarily a cakewalk, but it makes the rest of your day seem a lot easier.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. And I've heard other people talk about this, and it's definitely not just an idea that I came up with, but it's doing something hard every morning. As soon as you wake up, shortly after you wake up, whatever, you just do something hard, and that sets you up for success for the rest of the day. And it's kind of programming the mind to not want to just lay around and be lazy and procrastinate and all this stuff. It's like, hey, I've already stacked one major victory. I've already done this one thing that I definitely did not want to do, but I did it anyways. And that kind of just sets the tone, is I'm going to do whatever I need to get done, regardless if I feel like it or not. Whereas we live in a world now where people don't want to do anything that they don't want to do, and they think that they have the luxury of that, when that's not life.
Yeah.
It has never been life.
Yeah.
But it's removing that. But the way that we remove that is by doing the shit that we don't want to do. It really is as basic as that. It's finding the willpower, because you can't depend on motivation to do it. And what has helped me is this idea of setting future me up for success. We talked about visualization a lot in the last episode. If you guys haven't listened to that yet, go find it, probably a year ago or something like that. But it's visualizing, okay, this is where I want to be 5 years from now or a year from now or whatever. And whatever I do right now is going to determine if that happens or not. With you and Strongman, okay, I know I want to take the best place possible at OSG or the Arnold or whatever big competition you're doing. And that is probably what's dragging yourself into the gym, is you want to make sure that future you has the best possible outcome possible based off what you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's all about, you could consider it goal setting, basically, as you have that major goal of performing at this competition, and then you pick a few little goals along the way, and then you make a plan of all the things you got to do leading up to that competition. So it's about, usually it's anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks kind of thing, and you set yourself the long-term goal, and then you have a couple little goals along the way, and then that way you can kind of progress through those steps and then get to the end goal in the end.
And you can do that with any goal for that matter. It doesn't have to be training for an event or
absolutely,
going to the gym in general. It could be financial, it could be relationships, it could be anything for that matter, but you're 100% right. That is, the goal is just the end point, right? Like, this is the destination that I want to go to.
Yeah.
But what people do is that they don't sit down to come up with that plan of attack. Okay, I'm here. This is where I want to go. Well, what do I need to do in order to make that happen? Right. What are those daily habits, those daily actions that are going to get me to where I want to go? And then if they mess up once or twice, then they're like, oh, well, what's the point? And then they give up. when it's like you're going to have shit days. You're going to have days where you just don't feel like doing a damn thing, where you have to drag yourself into the gym, or you do get into the gym and nothing goes right. Everything is heavy as hell, whatever. But you still went in there, and that's where building the discipline, building the habits and everything else is taking hold. Then it gets to a point where, like you're saying, no, you don't want to train knowing that you have to work 12 hours after your shift and that you only had 4 hours of sleep the night before and you probably didn't eat right. And there's all these other factors, but you've done it so many times that now it's not even a possibility to not go to the gym.
Yeah.
And then it gets like that with everything. Even when you get dialed in with your nutrition, it gets to a point where you're going to eat what you know you need to eat. You're going to stay on track because you've been doing it long enough. And that's what I always tell people when they ask me, like, how do I build better discipline? I always tell them, like, follow a 12-week meal plan. No cheat meals, anything like that. If you really want to build discipline, follow a 12-week meal plan. Don't deviate or anything like that, because everything else would just seem like a cakewalk, because we have so many temptations around us when it comes to food. And especially when you're burned out, you're stressed out, you want that comfort, right? Or even if it's you want to drink a little bit or something like that. If you can avoid that temptation, then you can pretty much avoid every temptation moving forward. And then everything in life gets easier as a result of that.
Yeah, that's kind of almost what I like about my job is maybe the sleep aspect of it is kind of hard, but the good side of it is, like, since I'm working in the middle of nowhere, the only food I can eat is what I bring with me, to work and stuff like that. So if I only bring good food with me, then that's all I get to eat is good food, right? So it kind of forces me and helps me be disciplined in that aspect, is it keeps my nutrition on point. And it becomes second nature too, like how you said, do a 12-week meal plan. That's great for somebody starting out, because it gets you into the routine of doing that to the point that then it becomes second nature. Because I don't follow a meal plan or anything like that, but it's just like once you get those good habits in line, it just becomes second nature, and then you're doing it all the time without even thinking.
Right. You don't have to track. That's the same thing. I don't track what I eat really anymore, but it's because at this point I know what I need to eat every meal to get my protein in. And then I know what foods make me feel good. And I just eat those, and I make sure I get my protein in, and everything is groovy. And then if I'm losing weight and I don't necessarily want to lose weight, then I just eat some more. And if I want to lose weight and I'm not losing weight, then I just eat a little bit less. But you really do have to kind of go through those fundamental steps first in order to understand that process. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the podcast and you want to represent Norse on a daily basis and let people know what you stand for, you can go to our website and check out the clothing collection. And if something catches your eye, use the code podcast15 to save 15% on your order. When it comes to the lack of sleep and training and all that, do you think that carries over to competitions where maybe you're traveling? I know that you like to get to your competitions a few days earlier to adjust and all that, but do you think that helps out whenever you are at a competition, you're fatigued, you're kind of just ready to call it quits, but you're so used to operating in a tired state? Do you think that helps? Do you think it carries over?
I definitely think it did help a little bit, because like, you would work 12 hours, sleep for only 5 or 6, and the last thing you want to do is wake up and go to the gym. But you just wake up and go to the gym and get it done, and it's not easy. But at the same time, I was always thinking in my head, if I can get up after only 4 or 5 hours sleep and I can get this training session done, it's going to feel way easier on comp day with a good night's sleep the night before, and stuff like that.
That's what I was wondering. That's cool. I think we need to kind of set ourselves in those type of situations where you're training based off of kind of like the worst case scenario. Okay, like with Strongman, and I could be wrong, I've never competed in a Strongman, but I would almost think that it would be better to not have the exact implements there, because you're forced to work with something else that might even be harder. That way, when you get there at the competition, then it's, okay, cool, well, what I was training with was actually 10 times harder than this, because I had to pick up a rock out of nature or whatever, you know, like it wasn't like a perfectly round stone. But because you're having to kind of use different implements and stuff that you can just get your hands on, that probably carries over because it was harder during the training. So then once it gets to comp day, you're kind of already ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's almost like, in my opinion, like strongman's almost like getting too standardized because there's so many companies out there making, competition equipment and stuff like that. And then, oh, there's going to be this brand of equipment at this show, oh, I can train on it here or that. Whereas like kind of strongman, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was like you had no idea what you're going to get. It was some homemade piece of equipment made by a welder down the street, right? Yeah. So it's like everything back then was different and you had no idea what the dimensions were going to be or how high the deadlift was going to be or anything like that. And I kind of miss that type of competition where it was like that's when brute strength would have really came into play, not just who was better at practicing on that piece of equipment.
Yeah, because technique is huge, of course, log technique or whatever it is, that can definitely get you somewhere. But if you were just strong, that's really the essence of strongman itself. Yeah, I've heard people bitch and complain about mystery events. Yeah, I know that Paul Mauser used to do those a lot, and a lot of people hated it, and it's because they were so used to having the luxury of training on all the top level equipment, and then when a mystery event came along, they were always been out of shape about it. And I remember thinking the same thing that you did. I'm like, well, this is strongman. Like it's supposed to be who is the strongest. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, there was, I won my 4th Saskatchewan Strongest Man this past summer, and there was a mystery event in that show, and it was the last event of the show, and it ended up being a keg press medley, which like I hadn't, obviously I'm good at keg press, but I hadn't pressed a keg in probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 months before that show. Yeah. But that way it's the same for everyone, right? It's a surprise. Nobody had been training it.
I love it. How'd you do with that?
So really good. I won that event.
Did you?
Yeah. So
that's just because you're good at drinking, so it carries over.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to get your opinion on this because I'm sure you've kept up with strongman since the beginning. Like you've went back, watched all the old footage and whatnot. Yeah. I know back in the day they used to do shit like sumo wrestling and stuff like that. Do you wish they would go back to kind of just the off the wall events instead of the kind of typical ones that they have now, log press, stone medley, whatever it is? Do you wish they would just get absolutely insane with it again?
Yeah, I would love to try it. Like, I'm not saying it would necessarily work or anything like that, but I'd love to see it thrown around a little bit and just see, and if it does work, then great, keep it up and, throw it in a competition here and there. But I love those old events. Like, I've never tried sumo wrestling or like there's the pole push and stuff like that too. And just those events that you don't see anymore that were cool, even like tug of war and stuff like that too. Yeah.
Whenever Paul Mauser was doing shows here at Norse, we were working together with a couple different events every year. We had a pole push and tug of war, and everyone loved it just because it was fun and it was different and it's primitive. And I think that would be fun to see, just more primitive shit. That would be awesome. I remember one of my favorite stories I've heard about Kaz from back in the day was he broke his toe or his foot or something going into sumo wrestling, and they're standing outside the circle and he's looking at the person he's about to go up against, and he was trying to psych himself up to push past the pain in his foot, and he's losing his shit before they even get into the circle, and then the guy just walked off. Like, he won and he didn't. I might be butchering the story, but that was pretty much the essence of it. Is he was over there losing his shit, probably foaming at the mouth, hitting himself on the head, just looking like an absolute lunatic. And the other guy's like, "Yeah, fuck you. I'm not fighting this guy. You win." Yeah. But I would love to have seen those old school events. You're carrying a washing machine for distance, or whatever they used to do.
Yeah, the thing I like about that, like sumo and tug of war and pole push, is then you're directly head to head going against somebody else. It's not like pulling a truck or doing a log. It's like, okay, he got this many reps, I got this many, or he did this a little bit faster than me. It is directly head to head, and it's, no, I beat this guy face to face.
Yeah. I know sometimes you get that, especially at the Arnold, where they'll have two people going head to head at one event. One of them was the crazy deadlift that John was doing last year at the Arnold. It was him and one other person, and it was deadlifts and I think like stairs or something, like duck walk up the stairs. But that was, I agree with you, that was a lot more exciting just because you are watching two people trying to beat the time, trying to get the most reps, just going head to head with it. So you still do see it, but yeah, I mean, back in the day, that's all it was. It was you and this other person doing something like that.
Yeah, especially as like strongman's one of the biggest like spectator sports, right? So it's definitely easier to keep the crowd involved when you have two guys going side by side or head to head, because then there's a comparison, right? You don't have to remember, oh, I think this guy did this many reps and this guy did this many, or this guy looked a little bit faster than this guy. It's clearly definitive when they're side by side. It's, oh, that guy finished first or that guy did more. It's, a clear winner.
Yeah, especially when there's no reps involved. Something like tug of war, there is none of that.
Yeah.
Or sumo wrestling or whatever they do. What do you think you'll do after Strongman?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Like, obviously I'm working lots in that, but I will always stick with hunting and fishing and the outdoors. That is kind of, I already spend so much time doing that, and it's like, and that's something I don't think I'll ever get sick of. I could spend more time doing it. So,
yeah.
Do
you see yourself just eventually being an old man in a cabin in northern Canada? That's it. Just you and
absolutely.
Nature.
Like, I would love to have a little plot of land, have an acreage or build a house somewhere just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And really, Strongman's the only thing that's kind of like tying me to the city right now, is being able to go to the gym and stuff like that. And it's like when I finally kind of hang up the gym bag and stop competing, who knows how long it could be. It could be, 2 years down the road. It could be 5 years down the road. I don't know when I'll make that decision, but yeah, then I can kind of move out into the middle of nowhere, and it'd be great.
That's one of my favorite things about everyone that's on the Norse team, is we all have a huge appreciation for nature. All of us, and even the strongman, there's you and Gary. Gary's always out hiking and camping now, which is probably hilarious for other people to see. They're out on the trails and they just see big ass Gary walking through, trying to slide down a waterfall or all these different things. Or, you're super huge into hunting and fishing and all of that good stuff. And then of course me and Cody are always camping and hiking. Everyone that's a part of Norse, and I think that's what separates it almost, because when you look at the rest of the fitness industry or strength industry, or whatever you want to call it, you don't necessarily see that everywhere. But that is like the common denominator with everyone on our team, is everyone appreciates nature and they get out into it because they understand the benefits of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and it wasn't on purpose, I think, but the way that we've always done it is we bring people on. The best way I put it is, if I can see myself sitting down and having a beer with you in front of a fire, then you're supposed to be on the team. And there's not a lot of people that I could do that with, just because most people annoyed the absolute shit out of me. But that's why we have such a solid group of people. And it's people like you and Gary both have been with us for over 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
And you've gotten sponsorship offers from other companies that are bigger than Norse, and you stay with Norse, which is absolutely amazing. And I think that's one of the really big things there is the company has the brand, whatever you want to call it. There are certain characteristics of it that people relate to. And it's like, okay, cool. This is what makes it different, and I can align with that. I don't think you can buy Norse shit and not want to go out into the woods. Yeah. I just don't think it's possible. Like people that that just prefer the city and stuff like that, they don't care about us, which is fine. But that's something I was thinking about this morning, actually, was everyone just they do it in their own way, either if it's camping or hunting or fishing, whatever. So when's your next comp?
I don't have anything set in stone for sure yet. Obviously Pro Strongman League should be doing a big competition in April that's kind of like a world championship. So they haven't announced the exact dates or what the events are going to be or anything like that. But other than that, I don't really have anything in between here and there. That one's supposed to be in about April. So that's kind of the one that's in the back of my head right now. So,
yeah. Are you going to, They still doing a bunch of stuff overseas? Because you did a little bit of those in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I would. We were talking about that this weekend actually, because there's a bunch of competitors that came over to compete at OSG from Europe and stuff like that, and we were talking to them about how it's a huge disadvantage for them to go through all that travel and the big time change and stuff like that. So we were jokingly saying like, it's only fair that we should come over there and compete against you guys there on your home turf, right? And then it kind of like balances the scales.
Do they have, outside of like Giants Live and stuff like that, do they have a lot of big promoters over there, or like
there's lots in Europe. Like there's Worlds, there's Ultimate Strongman, there's SCL, and then there's Giants, and then there's lots to do around in Europe and stuff like that.
So if you are in Europe and you do want to get into Strongman, rewind, listen to all that, and that's where you can find comps and stuff like that. What do you think is the most important reasons for people to start training? Not necessarily strongman training, but why should people, especially men, make it a priority to get into the gym or do some sort of physical activity?
Yeah, the way I look at it is kind of you just want to be able to do whatever you do. You want to kind of train that'll help you benefit at that. So for example, like when I'm done strongman, I'm not always going to be huge and really strong and stuff like that. But when it comes to hunting and fishing and dragging deer and all that kind of stuff, like I'm always going to want to stay in some sort of physical shape that allows me to do that kind of stuff easily or more easily than where if you're just kind of sitting on your couch at home and then you decide to go hunting for a weekend or something like that, and then next thing you know you're sucking wind because you haven't been training or something like that, then so that's kind of how I look at it, is just whatever your hobbies are, whatever your goals are, you just want to kind of be training to be able to align with that.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my whole perspective around it as well, is just being able to do whatever I want whenever the fuck I want and not have a difficulty doing it.
Exactly.
You know, either if it's playing with my kid, going hiking, lifting random shit in the woods, whatever it is, I just want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it all boils down to, is just being able to do your best in life as a whole. And if you neglect yourself physically, you're not going to be able to. Mm-hmm. Like everything worth a damn involves physical activity of some sort of another. But yeah, we've never really talked about that, but I was interested in getting your perspective on it.
Yeah, like obviously not everybody needs to be huge and be able to, deadlift 600-700 pounds, right? And it's just as long as you're able to do your hobbies and your day-to-day life healthily and without difficulty, or a little easier than if you weren't training. That's kind of what I see as like a goal once I'm done strongman and stuff like that, is just stay in general overall health and strength to kind of allow me to do the things I love to do.
I like how you said easier, because that's really what it boils down to. Even if it's 20 years from now, we're older, body's starting to go to shit more than it already is, whatever. I want 80-year-old Andy to not have a problem walking up the stairs.
Right.
You know, and even in activities now, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do and it not be overly difficult because I wasn't prepared. Right. If it's cardiovascular or lifting or anything, I don't want either of those factors to come into play and ruin the experience, because it can, right? Say if you go hunting, you've never really been hunting before, your cardio is shit, your strength is shit, and all that different stuff. That could ruin the whole experience for you if you're not able to drag the damn deer back to the truck. Yeah. Because you neglected yourself for that. So I like that you said that you want to be able to do whatever you do and it be easier because you set yourself up for success. Yeah. And I think that's the best way that people can look at it. And if they are looking for that why, because that's what it all boils down to. What is your why? Yeah. If you don't have that why, then you're not going to stick to it. Yeah. And a lot of times people have very shallow whys. Well, I just want to work out. Why do you want to work out? Yeah. Well, I just want to look better. Why do you want to look better? Why do you want to get stronger? They don't dissect it enough, but the more that they dissect it and they really come to a very solid answer, like with yours, I want to be able to go hunting and be able to drag the game back to my truck without it being overly difficult. Yeah. That's a pretty big why, because if not, you're fucked when you're in the woods, Yeah. It's a big deciding factor. But yeah, I'm hungry. you got to leave for your plane soon. So we're going to go eat some lunch.
Sounds
Before
good.
we head out, though, what is the best way that people can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Max Out Maze. That's probably the easiest place.
Max Out Maze, and I'll put that in the show notes as well for everyone to go check that out.
And yeah, it's a little bit of training, a little bit of hunting, a little bit of fishing. I got everything on there. So yeah, it's kind of just, it's nothing serious, just my day-to-day life. So
which is still cool.
Yeah.
Luckily, you live an exciting life.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, and lots of people find it interesting. So
yeah,
feel afraid to reach out.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Norse Mentality. This podcast is a byproduct of Norse Fitness. We make clothing, fitness accessories, supplements, and other tools to help you reach your true potential. If you're interested in grabbing something for yourself, you can go to norsefitness.co and use the code podcast15 to save 15% on your next order.